This is Ganesh. Today I will be explaining you how to calculate the different aggregates of national income from GDPmp. I will also explain you what is net factor income from abroad and what are its components. I will be explaining you how to calculate the different aggregates of national income from GDPmp. So first thing is your GDPmp. GDPmp means that is the gross domestic product at market price, and it is known as the market value of final goods and services produced within the domestic territory of a country in an accounting year. This we have discussed in detail in my previous video. Now we come to the second value, second aggregate, that is GDPfc, that is gross domestic product at factor cost. Then how to calculate this gross domestic product at factor cost from GDPmp? The formula is GDP at market price minus indirect taxes minus subsidies. So indirect taxes, that I already told you what are indirect taxes, what are subsidies, these are explained to you. Now we come to the third aggregate, that is NDPmp, net domestic product at market price. We can calculate this as GDPmp minus depreciation. GDP at market price minus depreciation. The fourth aggregate is NDPfc. NDPfc means this is the domestic income. So net domestic product at factor cost, that is calculated as GDPmp minus indirect taxes minus subsidies, this is kept in brackets, minus depreciation. So here indirect taxes minus subsidies means NIT, net indirect taxes. So the formula is GDP at market price minus net indirect taxes minus depreciation. Then we come to the fifth value, that is GNPmp. So GNPmp is equal to GDPmp gross domestic product at market price plus NFIA. NFIA means net factor income from abroad. That is what I am going to explain later in this video. The sixth value is GNPfc, gross national product at factor cost. So that is calculated as GDPmp minus indirect taxes minus subsidies plus NFIA. That is gross domestic product at market price minus NIT, net indirect taxes, plus NFIA, net factor income from abroad. The seventh aggregate is NNP at market price, net national product at market price. That is calculated as GDPmp minus depreciation plus NFIA. So GDPmp, that is gross domestic product at market price minus depreciation plus net factor income from abroad. The eighth value is, that is NNPfc. NNPfc means national income. So NNPfc is equal to GDPmp minus indirect taxes minus subsidies minus depreciation plus NFIA. That is gross domestic product at market price minus net indirect taxes minus depreciation plus net factor income from abroad. Always you must keep in mind that NDPfc means domestic income and NNPfc means national income. You should be thorough with this thing. I will explain you what is net factor income from abroad, that is NFIA. So net factor income from abroad is the difference between factor income received from the rest of the world and the factor income paid to the rest of the world. So whenever we find the word net anywhere, that is the difference between income received and income paid. So net means the difference between income received and income paid. So here this is the difference between income received from abroad and income paid to abroad. What income is that? That is the factor income. Factor income means these are the factor payments what are made and the factor incomes what are received. So now let us see what is factor income from abroad. It is the income earned by the normal residents of a country from the rest of the world in the form of rent, wages, interest, etc. So here we have to understand what is the meaning of normal residents. Normal residents means any citizens of other country when they are living in our country continuously for more than a period of 1 year, and whose economic interest is also lying in this country, means they are doing some work and earning money, then they are called normal residents. So normal resident means an individual who resides in a country and whose economic interest is lying in that country, means who is living continuously for more than 1 year and who is doing some work and earning his livelihood earnings from that country, then he becomes a normal resident of that country. Then factor income to abroad. It is the factor income paid to normal residents of other countries in the form of rent, wages, etc. for their factor services. So here we are making the payments to normal residents of other countries, means they are non-residents of our countries. They are not residents of our countries. So the difference between the income received by the normal residents and the payments made to the non-residents regarding factor services is called net factor income from abroad. I have given you the formula here. Net factor income from abroad is equal to factor income received from abroad minus factor income paid to abroad. From abroad means received, to abroad means paid. The net factor income from abroad can be positive, negative or zero. So net factor income from abroad is positive. When it is positive when the income earned from abroad is more than the income paid to abroad. Means what you are receiving is more than what you have paid, then we call it positive. It is a positive value. Then NFIA is negative when income earned from abroad is less than the income paid to abroad. So here NFIA is negative when what you are receiving is less and what you are paying is more. So received minus paid, received is less and paid is more, so the value will become negative. So here NFIA will become negative. Then NFIA is zero when income earned from abroad is equal to income paid to abroad. Here when the factor income received from abroad is equal to the factor income paid to abroad, both are equal here, then we can say NFIA is zero. So one thing we understand, NFIA can be positive, it can be negative, it can be zero. And one thing is very important here, the formula will not change. It is always the factor income received from abroad minus factor income paid to abroad. It is not like you are taking the higher value in the front and the lesser value at the back. You will not change like that. Now let us see what are the components of NFIA, net factor income from abroad. There are three components of NFIA and they are the net compensation of employees, the net income from property and entrepreneurship, the net retained earnings. So here you can see in all the three places there is net. Net means received minus paid. That you must remember in your mind. So here the first component is net compensation of employees. You can see it is the difference between income received by the resident workers abroad and similar payments made to non-resident workers within the country. So resident workers working abroad means they are the residents of India, means they are living in that country for less than 1 year and they are working there. Their income will be added to the national income of India. So it is the difference between income received by the resident workers abroad and similar payments made to non-resident workers. These are the people of other countries who are working in India, but that is for a period of less than 1 year. So they are non-residents of our country. So this is the difference between income received by the resident workers and the payments made to non-resident workers in the country. The second component is net income from property and entrepreneurship. So it is the difference between the income from property and entrepreneurship, that is, we can say it is in the form of rent, interest, dividend, etc. received by the residents of the country and similar payments made to non-residents. So here again we have to understand that the income from property, you have purchased a building in some other country and gave it on rent. So that will be rent received. You have purchased shares in a multinational company abroad and you are receiving dividend of that company. All these kind of incomes come under your income from property and entrepreneurship. So it is the difference between income from property and entrepreneurship received by residents. Again, residents means these people are living there for less than 1 year and their economic interest is lying there. And similar payments made to non-residents. These are people of other country who are living here for less than 1 year. The third component is net retained earnings. So net retained earnings means again it is the difference between the retained earnings of resident companies abroad and the retained earnings of non-resident companies in the domestic territory of the country. So retained earnings means out of the profits every year, the company will keep aside a certain percentage of profit for future purposes, for future contingencies that may be used in the future for development, for expansion, for diversification, for any purpose. So that is the kind of savings done by the companies.